and I finally accepted it. Oh, okay. I finally accepted it, and it's been probably a year of trying to accept that.
And
So that's my update regarding Chiron and being seen and not being seen. And today I was considering the different fantasies I create in my head, which would convince me not to be seen. And it was quite, is the 20, yeah, the 24 is still in, because I have the 24, but I think I'm getting a double whack of the 24 today. I just couldn't, I was stuck in loops of thoughts. And if I hadn't have had human design, I would have possibly thought I was going fucking nuts. But anyway, so that's my update. So thank you, Tierra, because that's been very helpful. And I went out and bought some more black today. I'm now obsessed with buying black.
well, you do look good in it. And the reason that, I don't know if all of you, I think Lily, you weren't in that class, but I want to remind us the reason that he's relating this to Chiron is because his Chiron is in the first house. Both personality and design are in the first house, and I'm going to read that. This wound quite literally shows up in your sense of self, identity, and self-worth. Chiron is very conspicuous in the way you present yourself. This wound will typically manifest in the person's outward appearance and personality. When you first meet a person with Chiron in the first house, you will see the wound right away. And if you have this placement, look at how you feel around other people and how you present yourself. This can most likely point to the wound. Some questions could be, do I have even the right to exist, to belong? So, which feeds right into an open ego with,
yeah.
So, and I was hoping my friend Sherry would be here. It might just be too early for her because she also has the wound, the Chiron in the first house. And I thought there might be some nice discussion there. And I think that this is a wonderful example of how bringing something to consciousness can help, to shine a light on something and help change it from that perspective. One of the things that we learn in quantum physics and then human design is that when you see something, it changes it. So that's the main thing with working with your motivation and transference is the biggest first step is see it. And we know, from whatever we know about quantum physics, that is a principle of quantum physics, that when you witness something, it changes it, the very act of witnessing. And so I think it's a wonderful example that you're bringing, Lawrence, for us to see how seeing something is actually bringing an awareness that you can actually work with something instead of just kind of, go like that, which I think a lot of what we do with our woundedness is just kind of go like that. Yeah. Whatever it is.
While I was thinking about this today, I remembered what you'd said in class about the wound never goes away. It's always there. So I was thinking, well, looking at the times in my life when I've not stepped forward when I could have, and instead unconsciously mostly step backwards or sideways or any way but forward. And even spiritually, I stepped up. It's very easy when you're involved in a spiritual community like being in Sedona, when you can step up into your higher self, and it's a wonderful avoidance. So thank you for bringing that up about it never goes away. It's there to be accepted.
Your relationship with it can shift.
Yeah, exactly. And like having an open ego, I'm never going to have a defined ego, but I can shift my relationship to having a defined an open ego.
That's right. And it's interesting also the words that you're using about stepping forward versus stepping back or to the side or up and all of that, because one of the things that that I have really seen with motivations is the 1, the 3, and the 5 need to step into it. You and I are the 1. It's that, like, step into it, handle it. Whereas the 2, the 4, and the 6 need to kind of lay back. Quit trying to fix something, just be in hope. Quit being in fear, just relax. What do you need next? Quit trying to desire something, just listen. Yeah, so even on that level.
But you played that out for me, because I didn't understand what it was to be in fear. And you said, well, it's getting to the bottom of something and understanding it, rather than stepping into neediness.
Right.
And that made much more sense than just being the fear.
Yeah.
And there are times when I can be in the fear, and it's actually quite a wonderful space to be, because it's very alive.
You can be strong in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very alive, and it's very focused.
Very alive. It's very connected to being alive. I have actually seen for me that I feel more alive when I'm traveling, because I'm more in that motivation. I'm getting down to it. I'm dealing with what I need to deal with. Boom, 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 boom. And I feel more present. I feel actually more in my life when I'm in that motivation. Then everything's just like another boring day of nothing to do. It's harder.
Mm.
No challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a challenge.
Nothing that, yeah.
And that's because of your motivation?
Yeah, well, for one thing, yeah. Because the motivation 1, it's like when something like catches my attention that I have to handle, I get really present. Yeah. You know, when I'm running for that train, I'm in that moment.
Yeah.
See, I only know that because of the spleen, that feeling of like being in the now.
It's a different feeling. It's being in the moment, because I have to see what's going on, because I have to be attentive to it. I have to be the one that handles it. It's not just being present. It's like, I got to get this shit done. I've got 5 minutes to get from this train to that train. I've got to get off the train. I've got to look at the board, see where my other train is, and be running toward it as I'm looking at the board, you know. So it's like I have to be really in my life in order to do that stuff.
I can totally relate to that, because I ran for a bus the other day, and I ran across the main road and kitty cornered another road, and I had to check every single car, bus, motorbike, bicycle to get to that bus stop. And I did it in a very fluid, easy way. And I could literally see 360 degrees around me what was happening, and I just got straight through it. Afterwards, I thought, shit, I could have fucking died. But no, I wouldn't have, because I was very present in the moment, and it was mixed in with fear.
Yeah.
There was fear of death. There was fear of being knocked over.
So both of you have fear motivation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's your motivation?
I'm innocent.
I would say that didn't look very innocent.
No, but I think the only time I can relate to something like what you guys are explaining is possibly when my spleen and my willpower are like, we got to do this now.
Right. Right.
And that's yeah, but there's no forethought really in it.
Who else? Isn't someone else in the group innocent, going to desire?
No, Jan and V are desire going.
Desire.
Oh, they're the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Their innocence does not look cute. Mine does.
Yeah, that's right. There's
So what does it? What does it look like, Denise, when you go into desire?
I don't. It looks like I want a lot of things that I can't have.
It's like an obsession. What I've seen with, I don't see it as much with Dee, or maybe we're not talking when she's in that as much, but with other people that I know who are innocent, when they go into desire, it's like this obsession with, I want this and I want it and I want it and I want it and I never get it and I never get it and I want it and I never get it and I want it and I never get it and why can't I have it? And it's just
All right, enough.
madness.
I think the only time it actually shows up sometimes is in sex.
The way I've heard it, because I have a bunch of innocent people around me, and how I've witnessed it is that it's also a want. It's like a wanting things to be different than they are.
Especially other people to be different.
Right.
Mm.
So it's not always like a desire, like we're thinking, like lust or something like that. But it's often just this, why can't things be different than they are? And why can't I make that change? Let me
Well,
change,
when
because it's a stepping forward is the transference for the desire. I mean, for the innocence. Because
Mhm.
innocence is just in total acceptance of what is, and
what I saw, Dionys, when you spoke about in answer to my question, what's it like to be in desire? What I saw in your face, and it was then kind of confirmed with what Tierra and Philippe just said, is I saw the little girl, I want, and it looked, and all three examples were very childlike, like a child that's screaming for something that they want.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it just showed in your face.
Yeah.
It was,
and it's particularly with the six in both the motivation and the view, which Dionys also has and I have. It's wanting people to be different. If they would just, why don't they just, why do they, that kind of stuff also is distraction and transference.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you again, Philippe?
hope,
Hope to
guilt,
hope.
Oh.
which is again wanting things to be different, trying to fix things. It's about fixing, trying to fix
Wow.
things that are wrong.
So
It doesn't
Philippe, would
work.
you like, we went into, is Max going to be here at all today? Do you know?
No, he's doing other things. He's
Okay.
getting ready to leave town.
So
Pop in. Yeah.
both you and Max have your Chirons in the third house, and V was here when we looked into that, who has her design in that. And that's self-expression and fear of, and the bravery and commitment, develop confidence in speaking and performing, the ability to process information mentally and communicate it. The difficulty expressing yourself and being heard or having your intentions come across, difficulty in sharing what you feel. And I find it fascinating that we're learning about this just as you're coming onto a much bigger world stage with kind of all of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering if you've thought any more about that, or if I know you've been probably incredibly busy with.
Well, I mean, busy and then not, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it comes up now and then because it's again, it's the 49, so it's all about being rejected or rejecting. So that, yeah, in that field, it goes together anyway, because in self-expression and being on the stage and doing all that stuff, you're putting yourself up for rejection. So
yeah.
and I've had other like things where processes that I'm doing, I felt rejected by, like just people not calling me back when I'm trying to do a show before I leave, and the gallery is not, they're like, yeah, we'd love to have you, but then I'm trying to get the date fixed and nobody's calling me back. It's just this, and I just feel defeated when
Mm.
when there's just not. The other day I was working on like 4 or 5 different aspects, like my poster and my fundraiser, which is not working now, and just feeling very alone, and the feeling of aloneness, like being alone doing all this myself,
Mm.
um because there's not, like, things are not flowing at this moment for whatever reason. Might be the transits, might be I don't know, but you know as a generator waiting to respond can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
That frustration of like things are not flowing, and what can I need to do something about it.
Is there anything I could do?
I don't know. I think for me it's just witnessing, watching the me trying to fix it or do something about it, thinking I have to handle it, and that's, then I become hopeless. So it's
Mm.
also with the emotional wave that doesn't, I'm just writing, mostly I'm just watching it and writing it. But then with the feelings of the emotional downwave part, then I tend to go into hopelessness and rejection. All those things come with that. It's all part of
Right.
the emotional downwave. So it's hard to know what things are, because there's so many different, but they all do have to do with that wound and with um the transference. I mean, I definitely feel it for sure. And mostly I feel, often I feel really hopeful, and I'm doing the work and I'm getting it done, and it's happening. Nothing is ever what I think it's going to be. That's very much the transference for me, is like coming
Can I
up
ask a
with
question?
worst case scenario stuff. Uh-huh.
Because we were talking, Tira and I were both talking and agreeing about what it's like to be in our motivation, in fear, and it's very alive and blah blah blah. Is it the same when you're in hope, or is
Well,
it the same?
it's the same in that it feels juicy, and I feel very present in it when I am
Mm-hmm.
in hope, absolutely. And it's also receptive. It's life is happening to me rather than me happening to life, which that seems more like the motivations that are the what is it, 1, 3, and 5? Is that how it works? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so
They tend to, it's more strategic and active. So hope,
right.
innocence, and
Yours is more of a go back rather than
yeah,
go forward.
I just have
Ah,
to sit back and enjoy it.
right. Okay. Cool.
I would like to ask, I had to turn the volume down because there was a strange noise coming from somewhere and in my house or outside. But when Tiara asked you, is there a way she can help? What was that for? Can you reiterate that for me? I didn't know. I didn't get to hear your full share, Philippe. That's why.
Oh, I don't know.
Was it
Oh,
about
just stuff with,
the show?
yeah, just stuff with the show, with fundraising, with all the many aspects of the marketing and money and all that. That's all the strategic stuff that I really have no business doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I figured as much, but I wanted to make sure. Yeah.
Lily, what's yours again? Your motivation and fear?
Need
Need to fear.
to fear. Yeah.
You're the opposite of us.
Right. And I'm in a spot right now. Tomorrow is I'm going to a funeral tomorrow, and it will involve perhaps some of my family. And I've been really being drawn into this fear of meeting with them.
Hmm.
So I'm anxious. I wake up anxious, and that's not unusual to always have a flavor of that uncomfortability, because I think because that's what emotional people can feel on a daily basis, on a real subliminal type of basis. But yeah, I don't know who I might or might not meet, and the person that passed away is a cousin, and her sister is a cousin that I was really hung out with a lot growing up. She's a year older than I am, and we have the same birthday, and the person who passed away has the same birthday.
Whoa.
And her name is Marilyn, and she was brain damaged at birth when they pulled her out with the forceps. And so her whole life, she's been like this iconic stability in the family matrix, because she was always who she was. She was never any different. And she was a very sweet, sweet soul. So it's not that particular aspect of my family. It might be my brother and my sister. And so I don't know what I'm facing tomorrow. And I'm just having to really just look at the nervousness about it. And the other day I was watching this show, and this woman, she is getting her thesis in psychology and stuff, and she works as crisis hotline, and so she's writing her thesis on I had just gone through a whole thing in my fantasy about just telling my brothers and sisters, and goes back to the wounding, I am sure, the Chiron return, just voicing to them like, you treat things so lightly that has happened in my life. And one of them was an extreme sexual abuse from my one brother. And the other brother says, "Oh, you guys are just having a disagreement." I said, "Well, if you really want to know what happened, just ask me." He's never asked. My other brother who passed away, I asked him, I said, "Do you want to know?" He goes, "No, I don't want to know." And I told my sister things, but they're still like interacting with him, going to visit him because he's lived in Las Vegas and stuff like that. And so I was going through this whole scenario. And so I turned this scene on, and this woman says, "What are you doing?" And this woman who was getting her thesis says, "I'm writing about family dynamics, especially incestual abuse." And the other woman went, "Wow." And I went, "Wow," at the exact same time out loud. And she went, "Wow." And I went, "Wow." So this is kind of up for me. I always look at the synchronicities of things. So if anybody has any, I don't want to say advice, but insight to me stepping into that tomorrow, I'd appreciate it.
What is the Chiron in, since we're talking about
826, it's about, from what I've gathered thus far, it's about not rocking the boat, because there is consequences out of the ego, the ego kind of consequences, like downplaying it, which they have. And yeah, it just brings stuff back up. That's what it does.
Is it correct, if you have need motivation, that when you're in fear, it works for you to be asked, "What do you need?"
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay. So is there anything that you need from us?
What I just said. So you're doing it, what I just asked. Yeah. If there's an insight, especially from a sixth line point of view, I was
Why a sixth line?
because to me they have a broader view of things, like
Oh, you mean from the people who have the sixth line?
yes, yeah.
Is the brother
there's-
the
Go ahead.
brother that abused you, is he still alive?
Yes,
Have you ever confronted him?
I did. It was through it was when my mother was still alive, and it was through a letter that I wrote every single detail that I could possibly write. And but I worked really hard not to come from a space of I want to crush you or I want to destroy you. I'm just letting you know as part of my healing. And if you want to go with me on this journey, it's I'm open, to that, because I felt something happened to him as a kid. And I even said that. I said, no, I think something happened to you, maybe sexual abuse. I don't know. And he said, I don't remember. That was a long time ago. I'm sorry, but the but at the end of it, I don't remember. It's a long time ago. I said, well, if we ever talk, if the first thing we're going to talk about is that, I'm not going to do the small talk anymore. I'm not going to just pretend in the family. And so I also told my mom, and she was devastated. And I can only imagine being a mom with two kids that, she loved and all that. And then she told me she was abused by her brother. And
Oh, wow.
at the time, I told her, I said, maybe we can talk about this in the future, but I don't really want to talk about your abuse. I want to talk about mine, And yeah, so
Will your brother be there tomorrow?
I have no idea.
Oh, well, no wonder there's some fear. I mean, that's just in your body. Yeah.
Does part of you want to take him out?
Um, I don't think so. I think I don't know if I want to do anything except for maybe be recognized, but even that I don't have much hope for.
Mm.
Mm.
Have you recognized yourself? I'm thinking about that recognition of feelings that you have.
Well, when I was I've done so many layers of this, but when I was doing the practice, or my 4130 was really in play at this time. And what it did is it brought up, like, okay, I still have some fear. Was the biggest thing. And that I'm still holding on to, that the family can be different.
Yeah.
And how I might get in the way of that being different by still holding on to that expectation. And it was just, dear, you and I talked about that. It was just a weekend earlier, or 2 weekends earlier, my sister, out of the blue, I haven't seen her in person for over 2 years. She lives about 2-hour drive from me. And the last time I went to see her is I wanted to ask her what was going on in the family, and that why are people just pretending things didn't happen. I'm the one that's bringing things up, and I'm the one that took care of their mother, our mother, I was the main caregiver, and I got no thanks from it whatsoever, none. And so I wanted to know why. And she's open emotional, so I'm sure this was very uncomfortable for her. She just wants to have a good time. And I think that's a not self thing for open emotional people. That's what I have found anyway. Don't rock the boat too much. Let's just have a good time. Like, let's sit around and eat. Let's sit around and play cards. Let's sit around and, let's go on an adventure. Yeah, those are all good. Those are all fine. But I'm not that at that in this family. So that was the last time I really saw her in person. And so this time she just said, I'm going to be alone this weekend. Let's have a girls' weekend. And I got nervous again right away because she's very critical. You know, she's 6 years older than me. So anyway, I couldn't go because there were some other things going on. So she said, I just wish you would have made time just for me. You know, I went, oh, that's a real a generator thing to say to a projector and not see them at the same time. I want your attention. And she goes, that's what I wish. And I said, well, I wish you could have just accepted that I could have come up for a day and been happy about it. And she never responded back to me. So that's still out there. So I'm going to see her tomorrow probably, but that's still out there. I don't want to get too bogged down with story, but that's what's going on with me.
Do you need to go to this funeral?
I want
Wait,
to, yeah,
you
because
want to?
for my cousin, the one
Okay.
that is my,
Mhm.
actually, she's my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, part of me, that's a good question, Dee. Part of me wants to go just so I could see more or not. I don't know.
I'd like to read your Chiron line. Yeah.
Okay.
You have the 26 line 4 in both your personality and design. So I'm just going into the line companion. And this is Ra. My nickname for the 4th line of censorship, its keynote is censorship, is the Chernobyl line. It's a very funny line. The alteration of memory through elimination. That's interesting. It's an overview line, which means that it takes time in life. The memory system, what you remember, is changed by slowly removing things. It is like by the time you actually give your resume to somebody that you want a job from, you have left out the jobs that you don't want them to know about. This is the elimination of memory that comes over time. And then the exalted would be in Pluto, the ability through censorship to save the collectivity from itself.
That's it.
The power of the ego maintained through forgetting. Take the example of a salesperson. If you have to do a sales job and the last sales job you had, you were a failure and you were fired and you could not make your living, it's a good idea not to remember how bad all that was. It's a good idea just to put that aside and see what will happen next. So this is the power of the ego maintained through selective memory. So they just selectively forget to tell you something that they don't want to remember.
Oh, I do that all the time.
I mean, we all do that. And it's funny that last time I came at the very beginning of class, I don't know if any of you remember, I had just heard Ra speaking, you know, when the thing was playing in the middle of the night, and I woke up to hear this sentence, and he was saying how when we misremember something, we actually have no more cognitive ability around it. Like we can't be ourself with a faulty memory. We can only be, it's like there's nothing. And I'm wondering, Lily, if there's another line that you have that's about memory also, and I can't remember which one it is, maybe the 47 or the 64, which has something maybe similar about changing memories. And I'm wondering if you have selectively not remembered some things that could have put a different perspective on what happened in your childhood. I don't know, since if you don't remember them, you don't remember them.
I think what I heard when you were reading that
Yeah.
is I selectively let things out as to save the collective, which is the family. To save it from anguish or embarrassment or suffering, discomfort, truth. That's what I heard, that I selectively let things go. I stayed under the radar and I selectively did not say anything. Until I,
That's
until I,
what that I hear that too.
that's what I heard.
And I heard some of that in there, but I also heard that you actually are not remembering everything, that you've actually decided not to remember something. Not just that you're protecting the collective from knowing what you remember, but that actually, like, I'm wondering if there was some good shit that you don't remember because
Oh, for sure.
you've painted the picture of how horrible it was, and that all that might have been really nourishing is just gone because fuck that shit. I'm just going to remember this bad stuff until someone will recognize it.
It could be. I have gone through that thought or the questioning about that for myself. And because otherwise it's very limited, it's like I have a whole life and a whole years and months and all that. And I agree with that. I don't know if this applies to this. I don't know.
Can I throw an intuitive hit in that might not make any sense, but it's staying with me?
Okay, yes.
Does anybody in your family have a Scotty dog, like a Scottish Terrier?
They had a terrier. I don't know if it's Scottish or not.
Was it white?
No.
I don't know why. I just kept.
Unless they do, and I don't know about it because I haven't seen my family since before COVID.
Okay. I just kept being impressed with this Scotty, which is like a Scottish Highland Terrier. They can be white or black.
This was a black one. Dog. Interesting.
Who had that?
My brother who passed.
Ah.
And his name was
The
Terry.
good brother, not the evil one.
And his name was Terry.
Yeah. And I just wrote about that yesterday. Someone was talking about if you have a dog and one of the owners or the masters passed away, to let the dog see the body and smell the body so they can have closure. Right. And when my brother passed, his wife brought the dog in to sniff his corpse, and because his behavior was really not good, and he calmed down after that. So you're talking, I mean, this is all this coincidence stuff going on. So
would it, have you ever spoken to your dead brother
after he's passed?
Yeah,
just right after he passed. But not really since. No, he's kind of like gone or something. I don't know.
I just feel like there's something, if you put yourself in a situation where you just start talking to him as if he was in the room, then I just feel like something would come out of it. And I don't exactly know what, probably because it's private. But it's connected to the dog in some way.
Well, after my brother passed, in a couple of days, our dog passed very unexpectedly. And I did all this work with sending her over to my brother with a note on her neck and
okay.
And that
I
was.
feel like you need to talk to your brother.
Some more.
Yeah, the one who's passed. And I don't. That's all I can say. I'll just, as I'm laughing because mediums used to say this in the churches when I'd go, and I'll just leave that with you.
Hand gesture.
I'll just
I
leave
just
that.
leave that with you.
Just do with it what you will.
Yeah.
Well, I have another thing that just, I know this is a lot. Where are you, can you receive some more?
Thank you
thing?
for asking, and yes.
Okay. Just something, I was just looking up the 26, because I also have this exact in my, not in my Chiron, but I have the 26 for,
Uh-huh.
and I just was reading this thing and it said something about the gate 26 is the energy to manipulate or control others for your own gain. And that seems to be directly, usually involved with incest abuse, is that this person manipulated you for his own gain. And that's the power, I also have power view. That's, the power
Mm.
differential. And there is a belief that in the 26 that life is every man for himself. So there's not a real caring or awareness of what your needs or what you are trying to get will affect the other.
Mm.
So it just feels like somehow the wound is there, it's connected to that.
That's
Yeah, it's almost like your brother played out what that wound would be in the 26. Like he was playing out that, and maybe some of it is for you to own the 26ness of you.
Mm.
that I'm manipulating people.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was more just to sit with the wound of that, how the 26. I mean, what I experience in my Chiron wound is that it's not so much something I'm doing, but it's like how I'm being affected,
Yeah.
and the way I view it, the way I'm seeing it, the way I'm experiencing the wound is through that lens.
Um, can I add some things here,
Mm-hmm.
Lily?
Yes.
Okay. This is kind of like the work that I do with folks. So, and I have the 26 and I have in my Saturn, I have the 4th line in the 26.
Wow.
So, and I can share that I have had similar experiences with my brother. And I think for myself, there was a lot of repressing of good memories, like extremely repressing of good memories. Like I don't even remember certain people in my childhood. That's how much I repressed, and they have evidence. They're like, oh, here's all the pictures I took of you when you were a child, and I'm like, oh, I just repressed certain people altogether. And one of the things, having also studied human sexuality and all the ways that shows up in humanity, I think one of the places where I have come to also take a different perspective is like there was a role I played in it all. Whether I was conscious of that role or not, I think I was exploring my own sexuality in a way that was taken advantage of. But all kids explore their sexuality at some point or another. And certainly, I think you know, American culture, Western culture has demonized so much of that. And you know, whatever judgment we pass on what happens has a huge impact on us, right? Like I have friends who are like, oh yeah, I explored with my cousins, I thought that was normal. Like there was no shame or blame or guilt added into it. And I think even within my family, they were like, I have memories of very early on, you know, like pretending to be husband and wife with my cousins and like kissing. That seems to sit very differently in my subconscious and in my body than when we were a bit older, like pre-teen years. And yeah, I have like a memory of being like molested by an uncle when I was like a baby in the crib. And that sits differently, right? So there's like different things, but at one point it was all mumble jumbled together and it was all bad. And I had to do a lot of teasing of like, when was I actually in my power in some of these experiences and wanting to explore for myself, my body and my desires or my innocence to the body. And again, knowing that my motivation is innocence, like that probably got really manipulated by some family members. But I've found more power for myself in knowing that some of it was me wanting to explore. Not all of it, right? Like the really nasty parts of it were not me wanting to explore. It was like a lot of peer pressure and manipulation. But I don't know if there's more teasing of these experiences that would bring you more remembrance of the good as well, because that's what happened for me. Was like I started remembering some of the really positive experiences of my childhood when I started to kind of like unlock all of that. So I just wanted to share my own experience with some of these similar threads of life. Yeah.
I'd like to respond to that. If I'm noticing my body, my palms are sweating. And I have my other brother, we had positive sexual exploring. It sits different in my body. The other brother was violent. So that's different.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just sexual violence. It was, he shot me with a BB gun. He peed on me. I saw him torture cats. He bit my breast to where it bled. So it's violent. So that's so different than what I explored with my other brother. So I don't know where the key is in that, because when I think of this brother, something happened to him. And I had compassion for him because he got a lot of spankings. He ran away all the time. He had a marvelous sense of humor. I laughed a lot when I wasn't afraid of him. So it's different in that sense. But I do appreciate you sharing for your, on your own life. Yeah. So you're right. It can suppress things that would counteract or counterbalance with being a projector with a sweetness rather than a bitterness. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
was watching some show last night. I've been watching, judge me if you like, Gossip Girl. Totally love it.
No judgment.
I love it. You can judge me if you like. It's just, it's fascinating because it's, you know, all these teenage relationships, and they're so kind of pure in a way, you know, because they're just being so what they are. And when you just said what you said, like he got into a lot of trouble and something must happened, I remembered this thing that happened, and my response was, this guy was going to do an expose on somebody. And I thought, what if you wrote, instead of what you've learned about him, what if you write it from his perspective? Like, I did this because I feel this way, because this, you know, all of that. And I wondered I wondered for me at the time, who could I write about that I simply judge and put myself in their perspective, or even not someone I judge. Like, actually, I thought of you, Lily. Do I know you well enough to actually put myself enough in your perspective, because we're so very different? And I think from knowing you, and I keep going back to this recognition of feelings, which is so vital to your well-being with that 4130 channel, particularly the 30. Like what could you do that could help you recognize yourself? And if you want that we could recognize you as well. I mean, I think some of that's happening right now just in this conversation. And I just wondered, like, what if you were to write a little piece on what it was to be him, and how he saw you, and how he saw being punished? I don't know if that would do anything, but that's what came up. Like, could it break? Because I feel so much compassion for what you've gone through. And I also see how it's stuck somewhere. And I can imagine myself being stuck in, I don't know if this is what you're doing, but I could imagine me going, I'm not fucking letting this go until someone sees it. It's not okay. And it happened, and it was fucked up, and it was horrible. And all of you fucking people who won't even acknowledge that it happened, I have to hold it all the time, and it's killing me. That's how I could imagine being if that had happened to me like that in a family, you know, because I had sexual abuse too, but it wasn't siblings, and I didn't have siblings, and there wasn't a whole family constellation that was ignoring me. So I don't know if that offers.
I got an intuitive hit, if you're open to hearing it, Lily.
Yeah, I trust you guys.
Okay. Was your grandpa around?
No,
No.
my one grandfather died before I was born, and then the other one was 3 years old. I remember his death. I remember them people were shaving him, and I asked why, and he says, they're preparing me to die. I remember that, and I was in awe of it. And then on his deathbed, he waved me in, and I don't know what he said to me. I just stood there looking at him. So no.
But your brother was older than you.
Yes, he's 3 years older.
So he would have been around your grandpa a little bit more.
Yeah.
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 Why?
For some reason, I'm just feeling like it has to do with a grandpa. Like his abuse came from a grandpa.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird when these hits come.
It was like Lawrence had a hit, you had a hit.
Yeah, and mine are quite vivid when I get them. Like, I actually see the action happening. And just being very brute in like disciplining and not necessarily intending it to be, right, abuse, but definitely that was the impression it made. Yeah.
And
And
the,
and one of the things I've found, so I don't think I've ever talked about the work, some of the work that I do, but we go into like the unconscious and figure out memories that have basically been suppressed forever and ever. And those end up being like major roadblocks that you keep coming across in life. But one of the things I've found through doing that work is like the trauma does not have to be what we think of as trauma. You know, I've had people who it's like overhearing their parents arguing while in vitro, or a teacher yelling at them. It really isn't always like these violent, you know, big traumas that lead to like some really fucked up shit in their life. Both whether it's like they're becoming the perpetrator so that they don't be the victim, or a continued state of victimness, right? Of victimhood. So I don't think necessarily whatever your brother went through had to be like this huge thing in order for him to have responded with a lot of violence.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my intuitive hit. It's like it was like a harsh treatment, but not necessarily like he was sexually abused and that's why he sexually abused you. I think it was different for him. Not sure if that helps or not, but
there's also, it's interesting you're saying, I also did that work for like 15 years as a therapist. I did a lot of work with sexual abuse, and something that I am thinking about was I had a very intense relationship with my sister, younger sister, and we were alternately very violent with each other at different times. And it took a long time for me to uncover why that was. And it's very complex. You know, it's so complex and so many little pieces that added up to different things. My sister let my dog, who was fairly new creature in my life when I was a young teenager, she let him off the leash and he was hit by a car. And a month later, I beat her up in the middle of the night. And I was so devastated. She wasn't like hurt badly, but I was so horrified that I told my parents I needed to be committed to an insane asylum because I didn't know why that was happening. And I've gone through years, you know, of there all these different levels of she was a manifester and very intense with ego manifester. And you know, she was just always super angry all the time. And I took it, and I wasn't supposed to be angry at her because she was a girl. You know, there's all these different layers of things. So I suppressed years and years of her teasing me and trying to beat me up, She was much smaller than me, but very tough. And um and me just taking it and taking it and taking it. And then I just, it exploded all at once with these things. And of course I had been bullied and picked on by a lot of other people too. So the reason I'm saying that is because it seems like, Lily, that things happen to your brother. That some kind of things added up to him feeling the need to take power, manipulate you, be angry with you, hurt you physically, all those things. And the thing I keep feeling is, what we started with was this fear that you have of being around those people, what might happen, being around him, what you might feel, probably, I'm guessing, these fears that are coming up. And my main question is, what does the little girl in you need to feel safe there? What can you do, or is there anything you can do or anybody else can do that would make you feel safe among those people tomorrow? What's needed?
I'm processing.
Mm-hmm.
What comes forward, this is kind of cool in a way. If I've just followed my strategy and authority, and that me being quiet, let's say, not on purpose, but just that's the way it is, and it's from wisdom. It's not from fear. That's way different.
Yeah.
And I keep imagining me as a projector on the edge, on the edge of the whole group rather than in the center, because that's where projectors need to be, not the center. And that feels like I could feel a draining, like just. Oof.
Yeah.
So I have my strategy and authority. I have knowledge of my motivation, feeling it when it shifts and changes. I think that's enough. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And whatever happens is like, that's pat to say whatever happens, but I can't know what's going to happen, because that's mutation. That's shift and change until it's there. And that I do know that I want this to be shifted, changed to its finality, or as far as it can go.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that, and I need to know that. So, yeah. I mean, nobody may show up. It may be just me and my cousin in the body. Who knows?
Right.
Where is
it?
Lily,
Yeah.
regarding your brother who abused you, have you been able to forgive him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can't stay stuck here. I can't take it any further than what it's gone. I really mean it. I won't pretend anymore. So I can't do small talk in that sense, or pretend.
Right,
So
so it's not really to do with him anymore, it's to do
no.
with the family.
And yeah, and it has to do with me hanging on to that maybe something could be different.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm just going to continually they come up against that as long as I'm alive, I think, and they're alive. They're, I've wondered if he were to call me today, let's say, and say, I want to talk. You know, I've come to a point in my life, I see, I remember, or I want to heal this. Would I?
Would you?
And well, the only way I can know is in the timbre of his voice and the frequency. There's just no way to know.
Right.
Yeah. It has to be a certain level for me to hear what he's saying. Otherwise, I'm not interested. I'm not. But yet I'm still held somewhere up. I'm held up. And I appreciate you, Dionese, about you saying that it may not have been anything big, but when I think about his life, I mean, you know, how extreme. There's some stories that I'm embarrassed to even tell you, not about me, but about what he's done. And he at 17, he ran away from home, and they finally had to let him join the Marines at 17 and to give permission that young. And I can only imagine what he did in Vietnam. All I know is I don't know, but then he came back to be a policeman, and I went, "Oh my God!" You have this psychopath, you know, with power, and yeah.
What is his design?
He's a generator. I don't know his birth time, but he is a generator 24/7. So I know that for sure. But the nuances I don't know. And I have he was a charming, or is, I suppose, a charming person where as soon as he walked in the room, everyone, Larry's here. His name's Larry, by the way. Larry's here, you know, and everyone would stop. And I would be on the edge going, I don't know this guy.
Mm.
And my dad would play out his desires to be a ladies' man through him because he was definitely a ladies' person. Yeah.
Mm.
So, again, those are extraneous details. And I could see where no one else could see. And that's probably being a projector, perhaps. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Is his name Lawrence?
Just Larry. He wasn't born Lawrence. He was
Oh.
born Larry.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I used to hate that when Americans would find out my name and then they go, "It's a Larry."
Yeah. It's not a nice name.
I said, "No, that's not my name."
Lawrence is much better. But thank you guys. It feels nice to just talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's been interesting to get an update maybe next week about what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. You will.
This
In all
whole
probability. That's my
this
view.
whole
Probability.
conversation.
Yeah. I don't know if it ever could be like his son was killed in Afghanistan, and the funeral was in Georgia, and the whole family caravan there, and I didn't go. I didn't go not out of bitterness, but out of I can't do it. I can't pretend. Even through death, I can't do it. And I'm sure that probably set the whole family in a not projector, but a second line projected field. They think of me in a certain way, I'm sure. I don't know. So me just here listening to myself talk and hearing what I'm saying, I really have come a long way. Yeah. More than I know.
Yeah. Yeah, just seeing you when you got up closer to the camera.
Yeah.
You have the 55 as well, Lily. Yeah.
Mhm.
Isn't it like the whole group has the 55 apart from who is it? Doesn't.
I don't, and Dionese doesn't.
Right. Because the 39 is back in again. and it's in line 5. And I'm thinking about that whole being provoked into your true spirit, which I can relate to right now. And in a way, I can relate what you're saying to that, Lily. There's this provocation, and it's in line 5, so it's been in a while, provoking us into who we really are. Seems relevant.
Yeah, 38's in as well. Where to take a stand.
Oh, yeah. Let's fight. It's also in line 5.
Yeah, because they're opposite each other. So if it's the sun, then it, or the nodes, it would be both.
Oh, right.
Well, interestingly, I was going to go into your Chiron today, Lily.
There we go.
And we've looked at the 26. Now your Chiron in the houses, interestingly, again, are in the 2 houses that deal more with work than like personal relationships, which is what we've been looking at. But I'm also curious as to how that may play out. So your body is in the 10th house. And this is what I have written. Your wound is related to your career or your public image. The woundedness can be played out in the areas of business, publicity, or the individual's need for recognition, appreciation, respect, and acknowledgement. I find that Chiron in the 10th house folks usually didn't receive much recognition or respect in childhood, especially concerning their purpose and what they want to do with their lives. So this is the one where your body is. And I remember you saying one time, which I just still feel so incensed, that you wanted to be a veterinarian, and how your father just was poo-poo, girls don't do that. And I've seen you with animals, and I've seen your skill, and I've seen your love, and I'm just like, I feel incensed about it. From the moment you told me that till this moment, that was what came back at you for what you wanted to do. And now I'm seeing that Chiron is in there, and so that's on the level of the profession, but also just wondering where, because you didn't receive the recognition and the respect and the honoring for who you were as a child, maybe that's a reason that you held back from going forward professionally in your life in ways that you might have. And I also want to just make sure that you're okay with all this attention, because we could do something else right now if you don't want to do this right now.
In this moment, it feels nourishing.
Okay, good.
I was going to say, I didn't get a chance to say how beautiful you are.
Oh, I love you, Philippe.
I do want to also ask Lily, because this is being recorded. Do you not want this being shared out?
No, I mean, yes, that's fine.
It's fine to share it with the
Yes.
group? Okay.
That's good thinking.
And thank you for that. That was very respectful.
The only other thing I will mention is that I have a client at 11. And I will need the room by noon. I can take my 11 o'clock client.
I don't know what time it is. Could you say, is that like half an hour or something?
So in 30 minutes, I have a client, but that one I can take on the phone. But the one right after that, so in an hour and a half, I will need this room. Because it's a new client, so it requires video.
Okay. And maybe we'll just be done.
Maybe sounds reasonable.
Hour.
Well, that'd be 5 o'clock in an hour and a half. It's 3:30 now, my time.
So Lily, do you want to say anything about that?
The Chiron, I mean
Yeah, in the 10th house, that because you weren't recognized, maybe you just were like kind of, it made it easier to not go forward into what you might have wanted to do professionally.
I have no doubt about that. You know, being a second line,
Right.
but I mean, I've studied a lot of things, so it's not, and I don't, and being right-minded, it's not so much identifying with one thing, like I am the, you know, it's more like, what palette do you want to call me out on? All these, you know, this is the palette. It could be feng shui, it could be human design, it could be tantra, it could be photography, you know, all kinds of things. So but there is a glitch there as well, you know, that it just wasn't ever developed. Because the one thing that I could say about my childhood is that I had freedom to play outside, you know, just to be outside without, and I think that was a relief for a lot of the adults, you know, in life, but there was a freedom there, which I had a lot of time to myself. So that, but as far as looking at me and saying, what would you like to try? What would you like to do? It wasn't there, because they were just busy raising 5 kids and yeah, it wasn't real culturally oriented, which for an open G is important. Yeah.
Really important.
So there, I don't know if I'll ever, know, or I don't know. I'd have to, I don't know.
The other, your personality, Chiron, is in the other house in astrology, which has to do with work. That's the 6th house. So the 10th house that we were just talking about is more vocation, what you are really here for. It can be not necessarily the work that you do every day. You know, the archetypal example would be the artist who has to do their art because it's their vocation, but they have a day job. And the day job is in the 6th house, which is your Chiron personality. And Dionys, you also have this in your in your design, in your body. This woundedness plays out in the workplace or through working with the community. You can see your wound show up most often where you spend your days, work, school, etc., etc. You could be ridiculed for your creative talents. Some people with this placement remember feeling different from other children in school, or they felt that their wound showed up over and over in the workplace, no matter how they tried to hide it. It also might appear in the areas of medicine, health, or disease. It could be both in day-to-day matters and health-related problems. This placement can also create OCD if Chiron is in a sign that is relative to that disorder. It could be emotional issues becoming physical. Balance, work, and play must be achieved. There could have been frequent disruptions or a chaotic home as a child, and it's important to heal the nervous system.
What's OCD stand for?
I don't know, but
obsessive compulsive
that's
disorder.
right, obsessive compulsive.
Thank you.
It's like people who have to knock 3 times every time they knock or count something a certain
Yeah.
way. It's those little kind of glitchy things.
What was the last statement on that? The nervous system, something.
Yeah, it's important to heal your nervous system.
Yeah.
Because it was saying that emotional issues, which are nervous systems that we've learned from human design, the nervous system is connected to the solar plexus. So emotional issues can become physical ailments. So it's important to heal those emotional nervous system issues.
That's probably the hit that I got of all what you read
Yeah.
for the wounding.
And Dionise, because that's your body, that's where your body Chiron is. Did you hear that? You were off camera for a minute.
No, I was in the bathroom.
Oh, I'll read it again. Your woundedness can play out in the workplace or through working with the community. You can see your wound show up most often where you spend your days, work, school, etc. There can be ridicule of creative talents. You can remember feeling different from other children in school, or that your wound just shows up over and over in the workplace, no matter how hard you try it. It can also appear in the areas of medicine, health, and or disease. There can be OCD if it's in a sign that would promote that. And emotional issues can become physical after a time. You have to balance work and play. Can be disruptive moves as a child or a chaotic home life. And it's important to heal the nervous system. You're muted. Or at least
I said, yeah, that resonates a lot.
you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, so growing up, I definitely was like the odd child out. In a lot of school settings. And I think part of it for me was like, I often was like going into an already established group because I moved a lot. And even yesterday, I went and met up with a friend who I met as a pre-freshman in college. So, you know, she's known me for half of my life at this point. And, you know, she's like, oh, you know, like, who else are you keeping in touch with from college? And I was like, you're pretty much it, girl. And I kind of said to her, I was like, you know, I just felt so different from everyone else. Like the beat of my drum was just so different. She was like, oh yeah, totally. So there was recognition there, which felt really nice. But for sure, I think when I look at my wounding, a lot of it has to do with not feeling belonging in my family. And like some abandonment stuff as well from all of that, but really feeling abandonment because of the lack of belonging. Yeah. So nailed it on the head.
Well, and your Chiron in your design is in the 12th gate, line 6. So the 12, who knows a lot about the 12? The 12 is a gate of caution. It's in the throat. It's part of that 1222, which is the social graces or not. One thing I know about the 12 is that it's melancholy, because every individual gate has a melancholy. It's melancholy that no one wants to listen to what it has to say. So the 12 is looking for someone who will listen to it, and the 22 is looking for someone who's worth listening to. I think Lawrence has the 22. Is that correct, Lawrence? You have the 22? Yeah. But it's one of your many, many, many 6 lines. So I'm just going to take a look at that. But while I look that up, if you want to say anything about that so far.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, I feel like people don't want to listen to certain things. Melancholy, for sure, has been a theme in my life. I think when I was younger, my mom was like worried because I would only listen to like depressing ballads and like want to sing them. And like I felt like they were expressing so much of my inner world. And now I think I realized like I was picking up on my mom's like emotional definition because she's most likely emotionally defined, as is my sister. So I think that I was amplifying their shit, but certainly there was some of that was my own melancholy,
Yeah.
wanting to be expressed, but
Yeah.
not really knowing how. And I think that's been a big piece is, even in the world of like having a therapist, right? Like I haven't always found that super helpful because
Oh, interesting.
the when I do express it, I don't think I've ever had a therapist who isn't like, you're just super resilient. And that just doesn't feel like the right kind of recognition for what I am sharing ever. And I don't actually quite know what would be the right recognition for that melancholy that comes and goes.
Do you have any sense of that, Lily? I saw you nod your head and seemed like you resonated with that.
Well, the right, it's, you just know when the right recognition is there. You can feel it. And I was thinking for Steve, he has that gate as well. And one of the things he's always said is that you're just not listening to me. You're just not listening to me. And so that gives me cause to ponder for you, Dee, about being listened to and the melancholy that either come from that or yeah. And you said you didn't know don't know what it is that you really do need to be recognized for here.
Yeah.
And I don't either, except for the recognition that a great depth comes out of melancholy, and that you have great depth and
Yeah.
expressed.
I'm going to read the sixth line. This is the 12.6 metamorphosis. Here we have a very extraordinary sixth line. I love it when I have those. The next great mutation that will take place in humanity will take place in this stream that runs all the way down to the 39. The mutation will actually take place in the 55.6, which you have, Lily, I believe, and will eventually find its manifestation in the expression through the 12.6. This will be the mutation that opens up what the voice referred to as our spirit consciousness. That is the consciousness that is possible underneath the emotional motor. Ooh. This line is called metamorphosis, faith in and energy applied toward change and emergence from standstill. The sun exalted. I don't know who I know that might have that. Creative transcendence that, when connected to the harmonic gate 22, leads to successful mutation and the emergence of a new social form, or a retrograde metamorphose that has evolved a perfected adaptation to stand still. This is typical of the sixth line. Here you have the potential for real mutation, the mutation of the social form itself. This mutation has not come yet. We have the minor mutations of the social form, but the real mutation has yet to come. The sixth line is always waiting for this mutation. Not only are they less likely to be social, they are less likely to be cautious. This is a gate of caution. They don't care about either of those things. What they really care about is, what is the mutation and what will it do? The next gate is the 15, which is the love of humanity. I'm not going to read all of this. The capacity to mutate and express new social forms. This is always inherent in the 12-6. If you have that kind of energy, it is always possible for you, through your explanation, to bring real change in a way in which people deal with each other. And bringing out this mutative energy, this is what slowly begins to change everything. Without mutation, there is no real change. You come to the other side, the perfected adaptation to caution that can accept social limitations. So these are people who can just step back and say, is someone saying something?
It might be feedback.
Okay. Why should I get involved? Why should I go through all the pain of dealing with their emotional wave to try to get them to a point where they can really be clear about what I'm explaining to them? It's not worth it. They're too confused. This will never get things worked out. So there can be this profound ability to bring the mutation, or kind of an apathy, which apathy is one of the 6-line things too. The 12-6 is deeply cautious, but at the same time, there is magic in it because it can bring deep mutation to humanity. That's pretty cool. So this is your wound. You're here to mutate the whole shebang. I'm curious. Lily has the 55-6. And Lawrence has the 22-3, which is a harmonic. So when you have those harmonics, what do you got, Philippe? The 6-2 and the 55?
55-6.
And if Jan were here, he would have the 39.3. And Stephen has the 39-6. So we have a big mutative trip going on here. I'm riding it.
You're the conductor on the train. You're like, yeah.
Lawrence has been going through a deep mutation since that whole experience with Valia happened in that one class, and I'm wondering if there may be something, Lawrence, for you and Dionise to explore with that connection with that channel. And Dionise, did this bring anything up for you? Like, that's a pretty intense thing to have as a wound.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes me think of my work and how much of that is about creating a different experience for others, right? Like creating a different way for them to be in the world, right? Like, for those who don't know, most of my clients are trans, non-binary, queer, people of color. So at the intersection of like quite a number of oppressions, and to create a space, one where I think there is recognition of my lived experience of it all, right? And that wound from like my family or society not fully accepting all of me. But but then to create a space where they do feel that acceptance and affirmation and trust. Excuse all the background noise. All of a sudden, my housemates are going bonkers over there. So I think that's certainly like different. And it's been like my work has been, I think, the way that I have alchemized all of the trauma and drama and like wounding of my life. Right. It's like, well, if I have to live with this shit, let me at least make it useful to other people to hear about it.
And that's very archetypally Chiron right there.
Yeah. And I don't quite know how I got to that point, if I'm honest. Other than like, you know, I started my career in a very like macro level community organizing around like reproductive justice stuff, and quickly found out like these women can't even get to the doctor's appointment. Like, how the fuck am I expecting them to show up for a rally? Kind of thing. And then wanting to help people more on the individual level. And that was so much part of my human design journey, was like realizing like I'm not here to speak to thousands if I want to make a really deep impact. Like I can, but like I can go so much more deep with people on the one-on-one, and kind of pivoting to like honor my human design some more.
Right.
So yeah, that's what all came up, especially around, right, like if we look at what's happening socially right now, it's like everyone who's queer or trans is getting attacked and rights kind of stripped away, and all out of like fear of change. You know, it's all from fear of change. And I think that like more and more I'm here for that change, right? Like I'm here to say like, no, this change is necessary, and this change is like super vital to humanity's growth. And if I can support, 20 people in being part of that change every week, then I'm going to do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it sounds like you're working very specifically in a chironic way with your Chiron wound. Like, here's my wound. I'm going to be the healer of this very thing that wounds me.
Yeah.
Was that a big process to go through? Were you at first just, fuck, I just can't even deal with this, get me away from this whole venue? Or was that just, you just always had to do that?
No, I think for me, there was a point where it felt more resistance to it being that way. But I'm super grateful, because one of the things, right, like even the way I do my work is still very much community organizing at its core, where it's like the power of storytelling is what creates change in this world. And how do we use that on the like one-to-one level? So somehow I just figured out like, we're all fucking wounded, right? Like I think like I figured out the Chiron thing before I knew what Chiron was. And it's like, yeah, no, we all have wounds, and we all just want to be heard and have someone like recognize us. So in many ways, like approaching it from like a projector way, but like there's some of that in all of us, right? I whether you're a generator, whether you're a reflector, a manifester, there's a sense of wanting to be recognized as, I think, humanity's wound. Like we all share that piece. I think it's how we get recognized that matters on the like each type level, but I think we all want to get recognized to some degree. And how do you do that in a 50-minute session every week, right? Like that's the magic of then, you know, seeing into people and
Yeah.
being invited to share just whatever the fuck I see. Yeah. Yeah. Does that, I don't know if that answers your question or if that makes sense, but that's what came up.
Yeah, I'm delighted that you're offering that. I mean, I'm quite fascinated with the whole 6-line and 6 colors too. There's something very mysterious about it. I have fewer 6 lines than any of the other lines I have. I have 4 of them, but they're all in mutative planets, you know, so they're all in kind of power spots for me. And so I'm just a bit fascinated. I've actually learned about the 6 line a lot from Lily, who's lived with one for a long time. So Lily, you've brought a lot of awareness to me and just, you know, what that's like in the daily life of it all. And then of course having Philippe and Max in the class for a long time, and now you have 6s, so many, Dee. And it's mysterious and it's mutative, you know, it's what we need the most.
Yeah.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
Well, and I will also share, so like in my Mayan calendar, my sign is 13 wind, which just makes sense why I got named wind. Also, and I'm an Aquarius, which is wind, air. But the 13 is the same as the 6. So it's like looking at over the edge. It's the number that's associated with like the ancestors and like the very thin veil between this realm and the next realm. So I do think that, you know, having so many 6s and so much of this like looking out beyond this world in my chart has to do with why I am where I am in like everything about me.
There's so much.
There's no like
Yeah.
escaping the 6s.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So it's like, just in case you didn't believe it in the human design, here it
Just
is
in
again.
case you didn't get your
The
attention
Mayan.
here. It's here and here and here and here and here. I see that you have to go in a couple of minutes. Is there anything you'd like to say before that? And I don't actually need to go a whole lot farther. I almost think it would dilute what we've done to go into a whole different thing at this point.
No, I think for me, I feel complete. I feel good in my share. Thank you.
I want to say I really appreciate it, Dee, because I see I see more of you by your sharing just today.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah, I do too. And what's going on here? So I just wanted to acknowledge that you have a few more dimensions for me. Not that you were dimensionless, but I know that you know what I mean. So that's, of course, for my fourth line, that's pretty important.
Yeah. I like to refer to me like Shrek. I'm like an onion. You gotta get to the peeling, but you're gonna come up across some tears on the on the journey down.
Well, I look
Like,
look
there's no
forward to
peeling an
listening.
onion without crying. So I tend to like just go slow. I think that's, yeah, it's a slow process.
Yeah, I get it.
Tiara knows me so much better because like I just spend so much more time on the phone with her, and she
Yeah.
gets to see more sides of it all. And I think for me it's harder coming on here and sharing sometimes because I am trying to like be strategic with like watching the time and making sure people are let in, and like staying in that strategic mind sometimes doesn't always like help in me just dropping in all the way into like what's alive and present for me. But this Chiron stuff has definitely like helped me to see things a bit more clearly, even as to like why I'm living my life the way I'm living it. Yeah.
And I just I appreciate all your strategizing. I call you my external left mind, but also I invite you to drop in because it'll all work.
Yeah. Okay, I have to go now.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Oh, wait, let me make you the host.
Oh yeah.
Pete.
I'm the host now.
No.
So yeah, I don't like, we could go into a whole different venue now, like whatever would be next. Let me look what that would even be. I'm going in order of the houses mostly. We're not going to do the fifth because that's V. The next would be Philippe and Tierra in the seventh. So I think I'd rather give more spaciousness to that whole thing because I think we'll have a lot of juicy stuff around that. That's all about relationships and stuff. I am curious, Max. I imagine he told you, he sent me a bunch of, we were texting back and forth about this whole thing.
Oh my God, that whole thing.
I
Does
want to bring
Lily and Lawrence know about the thing?
Oh, and I particularly want to bring it up to Lily because she has met Max. Apparently there could be a situation where Max's birth time is different than what we have been going on, which would make him a 5-2 instead of a 6-2. And so I've been looking at all the different things, and I just wondered, Lily, if you have any hit about that. And Philippe's about to pass out here.
Yeah, I went into a pretty reactive mode about the whole thing.
Well, I had a very interesting response when he started saying it. I realized I was quite attached to him being a 6 line and that I didn't want him to be the 5th line. And I heard myself saying all the things in my head about why he was a 6 line. And then I went, oh, fuck, he could really be a 5th line. And I'm just projecting all this vibes of the 6 line on him. And then I laughed and just thought, okay, let's just see what is.
Well, it's kind of easy for me to accept the possibility. So I went right into investigating it.
Yeah.
But my reaction was more to the fact that how it happened and what happened. And the fact that, so somehow there's a glitch. He showed up as a 5-2 all of a sudden on my body graph. And apparently there's some thing where some people's whole charts are changing because of some new
Algorithm.
algorithm that Jovian is using, because they're just using a new, what did they call it? Ephemeris, I guess, or something that has to do with time, daylight savings time zone changes and all this stuff. But they, in my experience of it, and I don't know the details, they just like changed it and didn't tell anybody. So there's all these people
Yeah, going, what the fuck? But the
going,
thing
what the
with Max
fuck?
was he was always on the cusp. I remember talking to him about this when he first came into the classes, when you guys first started, and we landed where we landed.
Well, he was on the cusp of a couple of things, but not as a 5-2. That was
Well,
never.
it's still, even with the same Jovian stuff, it's an hour away. He's a
Right.
5, but it's not an hour away. It's actually 10 minutes away or something.
The
It's not
5-2
an hour. Yeah.
because he has, and then there's, a bunch of other things that are affected, of course, too. But for me,
Right.
it was more like, um, you know, that they made this big change and are not taking responsibility. Like,
Yeah.
how many people have been given the wrong
Right.
design? Maybe been working off that for 20 years.
Exactly.
And then that they're just changing this and not like,
And not even,
it's not a big discussion. It's not a big, so what are we supposed to like go and look through all of our people that we've done readings for and like see who's now a completely different thing, maybe even a different type, so
and I'm
I just
someone
like,
who hasn't ever trusted a time anyway. So
what?
I'm someone who hasn't ever trusted the time anyway. I've never taken it for granted.
Right.
So with Max, as soon as I saw that he was cuspy, we had all of that conversation.
When did they make this change?
Like, when was it? Like February or something, or March, or I don't know.
No.
I think that's what somebody said. And I was like,
So because I rekeyed my chart into Jovian Archive just a couple of weeks ago, just so because I couldn't find where it was in my computer, and mine's exactly the same as it ever was. So
well,
I guess
I mean, probably 90% of people are, but,
okay.
or
I
maybe,
mean, I remember when I was an astrologer, we had to know that if people were born somewhere around Chicago, and I don't know how big a range that is, they weren't putting daylight savings time on the birth certificates. So it was an hour off for all those people. We
right.
learned that, 30
So it's
whatever
probably the
years ago.
same. It's probably the same because Max was born in Louisiana.
Yeah, so it might be
Directly
that
down.
whole
Corridor.
thing.
So
Yeah.
that's a lot of people who may be completely different. Their charts may be really, really different. So I don't know. It feels like there must be something, and why they would just do this without like talking to people about it or anything.
That's weird.
Yeah, and so I obviously have issues with authority and betrayal. So
I mean, there was just something on Facebook the other day. There's this new app out. It's called Neutrino.
Yeah, Nathan's app.
And I put I wanted to see how it works. I guess there's a lot of information that's available.
He's putting lots of stuff in there.
Yeah, and mine came up wrong. For what? A wrong meaning. And I went, shit, I wasn't triple split, I was split, I wasn't a 2-4, so so
I wonder, you might want to
wrote-
ask Nathan about that.
I did.
Okay.
And he messaged me back and said there was at the moment in time that you were getting your design, there was a glitch in the program. And so we redid it and it came back to what I've been used to for these last 13 years. And I said, well, that's kind of scary because if I didn't know what I felt was my own design, I would not have recognized the difference. So there was somebody online on Facebook talking about something like that. And everybody was saying, well, maybe we should check with 3 different sources and just to see what comes up, especially if you're new or you have a new client kind
Right.
of.
Yeah.
And again, I was told at the very, very beginning of my experiment, don't trust a birth time. Just
Without
don't do
even
it.
birth
Why
time.
are you trusting birth times? Don't do it.
So
See
so
if
if
the
you don't,
person really is the thing you think that he or she is.
so if that's the case, we're just doing an experiment based on the a possible fallibility. Why trust it?
Well, what you trust is what you see. Like I did this with Jan. I worked with Jan for I call it 6 years, but I've never gone back and looked and gone, this is not your birth time. This is not your birth time. It is not correct. I don't know what it is. And I realized it. I always go beneath the line because that's where it tells me stuff. And
Sure.
he was supposed to be high sound. Left mind, left brain, high sound. And every time we'd get on the phone, if some little traffic went by, he'd go, God, that's so loud. Until one day I went, wait a minute. If you're high sound, this should not flip you the fuck out like it does.
Right.
Something isn't right. And then I went deeper. You're certainly not strategic. You don't have a quick brain. What the? And then I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And he was having none of it. He was
Right.
not having anything to do with me. He was just annoyed whenever I'd bring it up, but I kept going until the point where I landed, and then his life changed.
Right.
So, if you're talking
you
to
mean.
someone and you're talking about a triple split and they're like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
when you step back and go, okay, who is this person?
So, but what if, so with Max,
Mm-hmm.
there's a few things. One of them was saying that he's right-minded.
Right. That
Um,
surprised
which
me.
it's very surprising just because he's so strategic, but that could be just his fear motivation.
I know. And it could be the fear, motivation, and the logic. And that was one of the questions I asked him. I said, so is all that strategic that you do just natural and easy for you? Or do you really have to work at it? He goes, no, I work at it. And I went, oh,
Yeah.
because all of us who are right-minded have tried our damnedest to be strategic.
Yeah, but it never worked. Somehow it works for
Yeah.
him. It's hard for him, but he does it really well.
Right.
And he seems
So
to go to it
what
right
would
away.
happen if he didn't have to be that person?
Yeah.
Because I remember doing that to Steve, because we thought Steve had a strategic mind at first with the birth time we very first had. And I'd go to him for strategies all the time, and he'd do his damnedest to give it to me until one day I went, you're not good at this. And then
Right.
we shifted, and then we started seeing a different thing. The one thing that I have seen with Max that I do relate to a 5-2, any of those 2-5-5-2s, is that he's very self-contained. He doesn't seem to look outside of himself for motivation. But then there's a self-containedness of a 6 line too. It's just different
Yeah.
from a
yeah.
different place.
I was going to say that
Yeah.
seems to be the case, 6th line. So yeah, it's interesting because I'm certainly open to it, but it did piss me off.
Did he share with you the charts that I sent of the different minutes
No.
and what he would be? I'll forward those to you because it wasn't an hour different. Yeah,
You didn't
an
share
hour
them
is
with me.
different, but it was like 10 minutes different, 3 minutes different for this. Yeah. I'll send you
You
those
didn't.
and look at them.
Sorry.
What, Lawrence?
So he didn't share them with you, Philippe, because you were pissed off.
I know. I was just pissed off at Jovian Archive, not at him. But yeah, I'm fine with him being a 5-2. That's fine. It's funny because my other partner is a 2-5.
Oh, that's interesting.
You get projected all over the place.
No, yeah.
It is kind of seductive.
Yeah, he definitely did. He definitely is.
You know, when the both of you show up on screen naked, you're not really naked, but you look naked because we can't see this. He's the one that looks seductive with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You actually look a little shy, but both your bodies would still be shy, but
Both
he
of them
has a little bit of that seductiveness to it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely not as shy as I am. And the other five lines I know are all very seductive too, like he is. And so that, I mean, that does make sense. And there is the kind of, he is a bit inscrutable,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that fifth line that you can't really get to know, really. You can't, they don't really kind of, and that is true. And everybody says that about him.
Yeah, I would. When I see you two together on screen, to me, you're very open, and Max has got that kind of mystique.
Yeah, definitely
And I-
does.
and I
that's a
presume
very
that associates
fine
with the
word.
fifth line, right?
Yeah.
And that mystique I'm not interested in men, so I don't really look at it that way, but that mystique makes someone more interesting. So I
Yeah.
imagine if Max were a woman, if it was Maxine, then I might look at it more as a seductive thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's, I mean, it's true. It's so funny because in terms of a relationship, we've always, you know, it's part of our compatibility is
Ah.
calling, you know, the 6'2". So we're both 6'2s and da 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 da, you know, that's what we're
Well,
doing.
then
Like, and now it's like,
you have to break up now then.
exactly. That's what I told him. I said, I want a divorce. If you're a 5'2", fuck it. Fuck it. You lied to me.
Does it change anything else, like his motivation or anything?
No, I think just
tell
is
you,
like,
but wait, I'm sending these to you while I'm thinking about it.
is he still a power view? I think so.
Yeah, the view hardly changes,
Yeah.
quite
His
honestly.
What about
environment
the
is the same.
motivation?
Okay, I can tell you because now I'm in front of it here. Yes, if he's the 5'2", I have three charts, different charts. Yeah, he'd be innocent instead of,
Right.
and that's a very different thing. I don't see that innocence, but maybe I do.
I mean, it's interesting because in the last month, I think, or maybe some interesting things happened. One of them is that we talked about a thing in our relationship, which was for a long time, I was his support emotionally, and we moved here and I supported him in like getting the house done and taking care of his mother and all that. And I was pretty much supporting him all the time. And he was more financial supporting. And then we switched, or I said to him, I was like, I need you to switch now because I'm doing this Edinburgh thing and I want you supporting me 100%. I did all that for you. It was so bargainy of me. So tribal. I'm like, okay. And I just said it. And he has relaxed so much being in the support role and knowing that I'm saying I'm going to support him financially. And it's interesting, just his whole,
Yeah.
he's just become so much calmer. So it may be that he doesn't need to be worrying about everything. You know,
And
maybe he
if
doesn't
he's
need to be afraid.
yeah, maybe he is innocence and he was just in desire all the time because he was in transference trying to be strategic.
Very well could be. So I am noticing he's so much more relaxed.
Interesting.
And yeah, it's interesting. There's a certain layer of something with us that's easier between us.
Mm,
And I'm also, of course, it's interesting because we have the money line, and I'm the owner, and
you're the
he's
45, yeah.
I'm the 45, and he's the prime minister, the agent. So it's been interesting because in a way it's been the opposite in the physical thing, because he owns the house. I'm like, but in reality, on an energetic level, I'm really the owner of the community. I'm the leader of the community. And when and so when I took that in this current thing, I think that helped him relax too.
Interesting.
He doesn't want to be the owner. So I don't have to own the house, but I have to own what's going on here. And the more I do, the more I'm leading it. He relaxes, and it's so much better. So I don't know, there's a lot of interesting shifts that have been happening. So
He's the 21.
yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
What
The
made you
other
look?
thing that changes in the PHS, wait, let me look. So he's, yeah, he's the one no matter what, the appetite. But if he's the 5-2, he goes to color 5, which is the vibe rather than the touch of something.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that would be something to start noticing. That could be a real big clue. Like, does he want to, if you go buy apples, does he have to touch those apples? Or could you just
No,
kind of,
what I do notice is that when he's cooking, he's always picking up and eating everything. He has to put it in his mouth. So it's not like, I mean, he's not a person who sits and like closes his eyes before he eats or anything.
no, that's the 4.
Oh, okay. That's the inner vision.
The vibe, the 5, yeah, that's inner vision. The 5 is a vibe thing. It's very it's very it's like a lot of people that I know, but not all, because Jan has this and he doesn't care a hoot for organic or this or that. But a lot of people who have that tone 5, they want organic stuff. And I think they think it's because of what they think it's because, but it's really because there's a vibration about organic because it hasn't been done things to that other things have been. You have a 5, Philippe, I think, in your personality. And so does Lily and Steve. That's the thing that I would start to notice, because those kind of things are below the level of consciousness, and he hasn't been trying to be different.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm the one who seems more like that because I'm way more picky about stuff like that, but it could be.
But you have that in your personality, so it would be his body doing it, not his personality.
Uh-huh.
What is the? Oh, and his 6, he'd be a 6-6 if he's the 5-2 on his personality instead of a 1-1. Fuck me, that's. Yeah.
Six.
Well, Max can come to class one time and we could just have a whole class about him. Go into it.
What would be the other 6?
If he's the 5-2, Lily, his motivation is 6 and his cognition on the motivation is 6. So color 6, tone 6.
Okay, so
What is
motivation is innocence, but what's the other 6?
It's It's an A word. What's the word? Hold on. I always forget that word. I like it, but I always forget it. Who do I know that has that? Blah, blah, blah. Who do I know that has that? Who can give me that? Oh, well, here, let's just put Max.
Yeah.
Oh, he could be a 5-2. Oh, Well, you just said he doesn't do the inner vision thing, but I don't know if Lily did before she. Probably on some level without the eyes closing, because he could be a 5-2 and have a tone 5 also. God, it's so fraught. I didn't even take a picture of this one.
I even in the inner vision thing, it's not necessarily closing the eyes, but I've noticed myself, the eyes are downcast and I kind of go into just a slight little trance. So it's not necessarily
Yeah.
a physical closing of the eyes. It's
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
I mean, he is very geared toward meditative practice. I mean, that's like a normal, that kind of thing. He is an inner vision type person. I just have never noticed it in relationship to food, but that may not be the, I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, in this one chart, he would have inner vision.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, it's not the most, I wouldn't say that that wasn't true. I just have never noticed it, you know.
Yeah.
What made you look?
He seems to be such a touch person with food.
Why did you look? To find out something different, perhaps. Did you just accidentally come upon it?
Oh, you mean Max with this?
yeah.
Oh, he would just looked at, he brought up his chart on Jovian Archive and it was a different chart.
Okay.
He just looked at it and it had changed.
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
I knew it was an A word.
Acceptance. And what is that? What thing is
That
that?
would be the tone.
Which is called what in general?
Acceptance.
No, I mean, for him, it's called acceptance, but what is it in the, like, you know, we have like motivation and
Cognition.
cognition.
So if he's a 5-2, his tone or cognition on the personality side would either be like you, the 5, which is what's that called? Judgment or acceptance.
Wow.
The judgment, you might remember, because I remember going through this with you, it's the been there, done that. You have that too, Lily, so does Steve. It's like you just get to the end, it's connected to that 35, gate 35. Okay, done. I'm done with that.
Yeah, that is prevalent in my life for sure, on a personal level, not necessarily people, but
Yeah, it goes with my 49 and with my
Yeah,
and with my cycles, you know.
right, right.
So it's all,
in cycles for sure.
yeah.
Then
Everything.
3 years could go by and I'll pick it back up again at a different place, like a food or a drink or, yeah, it's weird. I guess not weird, but you know, I don't 5-2s are more rare. I don't know many 5-2s or 2-5s actually.
Yeah, we have a really close friend who's a 5-2, and then Jiminy is a 2-5. It's funny to have. I guess it's interesting that I have my resonance with so many people I know is just a hermit.
Second line body.
I mean, that's a weird thing to have. resonance with another because it's all about being alone.
Yeah, well, there is that balance between the second, the second line, and the personality and body are really different,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy being in relationship with a line 2 body, 6-2. She was a 6-2, I'm a 2-4, but I don't think those twos really connected because she just wanted to be on her own in a room all the time. And I thought, well, I'm not in a relationship. My, my 4 wanted to play, but my 2 liked to hermit when I was painting or doing my own thing. But so I think there's like you just said, Lily, there's a huge difference between a 2 personality and a 2 body.
Interestingly enough, though, like my 6-2, my hermit is very less pronounced than my 2-5 boyfriend. Like he's way more hermity than I am, even though he's 2-5.
Yeah, well, it's his personality.
Right. So my body needs hermitage, but it's not very often.
You're
like
also a markets person.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get affected by a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But I have 2 people, one female and one male, who are both 6-2s. Mal Brittain was the other 6-2, and I lived in an apartment with him. And he never came out of his bedroom unless it was to cook. So my experience of 2 bodies with these 2 people was that they both just stayed in their bedroom all the time.
What's funny is people may think of me that way. And I don't know it myself. It's funny when you say that, I'm like, I've heard people say that I just like hole up in my room. I don't think of it that way because I'm always trying to get out. I always want to get out, and my environment is out, in the marketplace. So it doesn't fit with that. But my body definitely like.
And I think it's a lot.
In my room, yeah.
It's a lot to do with me being a 2-4 as well. So I want to play. I want coming out and play. Coming out of your room and play.
Yeah, well, if somebody calls me out, I'm out.
Yeah, I call Steve out a lot. I finally surrendered to that aspect, or just by me saying, well, I'm gonna go anyway, and then he'll show up and go, he doesn't want to miss out somehow, and it goes. And and even in sex or sexuality, I noticed the difference and I think I'm better at it. But that's just me. I really, within the sexual realm, I could really call his body out just by wanting to do different things. Been there, done it. Let's try something different. And he goes, but it has to be called out. But my personality needs to be called out in a certain way to enliven my spirit, basically. So being a projector, I'm always, I don't know, seeing the energy, and if person's open to it, to educating or to guide that aspect of it. So yeah, I don't know where Steve would be all by himself. And Terry, you've often said that that he would be a real hermit, a real.
And he's a 6-2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just interesting to hear Philippe's point of view of saying, well, everybody says I'm a hermit, but you don't experience yourself that way.
Well, yeah, just because, I don't experience myself as a hermit at all, but that's because I'm external market. I have to be out there.
And Steve's external market too. So
it's
that
makes one of the conundrums of my
okay.
design. isn't
I
it?
imagine if I hung around with you a lot, Philippe, I'd be calling you out.
Yeah.
For sure.
And Max calls me out all the time.
And there's always the other side. I mean, Mal was a great musician and he played in a band all over Ibiza and he was always out playing with the band.
Right. Yeah.
But if he wasn't playing with the band, he was in his room.
Right.
It was either
Or
or.
Yeah.
he did come out when he felt the need to come out or the urge to come out, but and not so much with him, but with my girlfriend, I noticed it more because I wanted her to come out and play.
Yeah.
And she just was stuck in a room. And I thought, well, oh, Valia,
Hello.
what time is it?
Hey, hi, lovely. Nice to see you.
Did you forget class?
No, she was doing something.
Hi. Hello,
Hi.
hello.
Hello there.
How's it going,
Yeah.
guys? I missed you guys. Hi.
Hi.
You
Hello.
okay?
Oh my God. I had like the craziest week. It was like it was honestly some of the most traumatic like 48 hours of my life. I'm
Oh
gonna give
my
you some
God.
light. Ooh, right, hold on. I'm gonna give you light. I'm like, oh, say hi. I'll actually show up here. Hello.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was gnarly. I mean,
No,
I'm being recorded, so I'm not going to give the full details, but I will just
I'll
say,
stop the recording.